morning, everyone. Here is just another episode of the ProcurementZen Experience, and today we are going to talk about sustainability in procurement. But before we do that, let's just kick it off with the intro.
Are you looking to up your negotiation and procurement skills? You're in the right place. Welcome to Procurement Zen with your host, Phil Kowalski.
Alright, yesterday we talked about digitization, and today we have just another very important topic, and that is sustainability in procurement. And before we kick it off with talking about the impact, negative as well as positive, let me make a clear statement. Not only do I think that sustainability in procurement is here to stay, but I also think it is important. So let me try to come up with definition. From my point of view, sustainability has three major pillars. The first major pillar is basically the economic impact. Short-term over long-term economic impact is quite important. The second one, and you might have guessed that one, is of course environmental impact. And finally, the third one is basically social impact. And unfortunately, the last one is quite often forgotten. So sustainability, the first thing that comes into mind when people talk about sustainability and sustainable procurement is that it will have a heavy impact on your brand. It could ruin your reputation, which in return can have another heavy impact on your sales and revenue. And you don't want to be that kid on the block. No one wants to play with, or even worse, do you want to be employed in a company that is publicly seen as not being sustainable, as not being fair? So, for example, let me give you an example. Some fast-turning fashion companies like Gap or H&M, they are sourcing their clothes from sweatshops in Bangladesh. And some NGO reports state that abuse of women is a daily reality here. So that goes into the realm of social impact. And do you want to buy, or even worse, work for such a company, willingly accepting the garment workers' daily brutal reality? Actually, when these reports came around, that had a heavy impact also on the bottom line of H&M and Gap, because in these days information is everywhere, and you simply cannot do that. So another example is a German drugstore chain called Schlecker, and what they basically did is they fired nearly all of their employees in the drugstores just to re-employ them through their very own templater agency to bring down salaries, which led to a heavy uproar in press, in public opinion about that company. And at the end of the day, that company went bankrupt. So you can see what not following a sustainable social theme can have as an impact. And we're talking about a company that had thousands of drugstores. So, but sustainable procurement does not only stop there. Besides requiring your supply chain to require certain minimum standards, you also should carefully monitor your investment under that aspect. But, and that's also quite important from my point of view, sustainability not only has purely negative impacts, it also has some positive drivers. So one typical driver is, to be open and honest here, directly cost cutting. Right? So if you buy machines that consume less energy, that basically cuts your energy bill, and that could be a substantial saving in your daily operations. Another driver is that sustainability, and especially in the environmental part of it, is a megatrend. Just look at all these Friday for Futures demonstrations that are happening all around the world. You could say, yes, that is only kids who want to avoid school, but I quite honestly see it differently. In that size, I personally don't think it's only kids that want to avoid school. This topic of sustainability is dear to your heart. And just look at these quote unquote kids. Those are the students of tomorrow and your co-workers the day after that. Right? And these people do not all of a sudden lose their interest in working for or acting as working for a sustainable company or acting as consumers who buy sustainable products. So that is also a very, very important point. And one other aspect here, especially when it comes to those people, comes into mind. These are the people you want to hire in a few years. And these days, future young academics will not only look for the best salary, but for the best overall package. And in that overall package, sustainability plays a major role. And of course, the reputation that you have, which is once again heavily impacted by how sustainable you are, is also a major part of that. So you might want to reconsider, if you're seeing it differently, your view on these young people and on the environmental aspects that they want to, that they are preaching basically. Another driver, of course, is the idea of value creation. You innovate and create new products that are sustainable, that may help your customers become more sustainable as well, and in return give you a USP, a unique selling proposition. Maybe that's the one feature that differentiates you from your competition. So increased revenues, new markets, I would say that is a classic win-win situation. And when you are sustainable in your procurement tasks, you can, for example, also, and that's another driver, you could also avoid scarce markets. Tesla, for example, has reduced the amount of rare earth they are using in their battery because, first of all, it's not sustainable, and second of all, the market is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So that also, once again, not only has a reputational impact, but also an impact to their bottom line. So in addition to these kind of measures, more and more companies also form or join alliances that procure these raw materials sustainably. So overall, I would say you could see that doing sustainable procurements is not just a brand thing, but it can provide massive value to your company. So that's it for today. As always, if you're listening to this on our podcast, head over to ProcurementZen.com/YouTube to watch the video on YouTube. And if you want to just listen it, you can also find the podcast episode over at ProcurementZen.com/035. That's 035 for episode 35. That's it for today. Always happy negotiations. See you tomorrow.